Hello there. So in this very short video, I'm going to show you about our nutritional genomics testing. I'm going to walk you through a couple different gene profiles here just to show you why when you get a diet plan written, you have to have some sort of scientific evidence about yourself as a person for the diet plan to be accurate. So you can see as I click through these gene tests that different people have elevated genetics in different areas, and not a single one of these is exactly going to be the same. So, a part of this genomics test, which is 29 pages, you're also going to receive a 34 page, roughly about 34 pages. This one's a family grocery list right here. So, we do test for families just to see gene variants and come to mealtime, how you can make sure that the meals that you eat are supporting everyone's genetics because gene expressions are different among each person. So, right here, this is like a 34-page outline of foods, the meals that you would eat, the time that you would eat the meals. And then at the very, very bottom of this, we're going to give you how to make the meals. And then we're going to give you the grocery shopping list so you can make sure that you have all the essential groceries in your cart, thus reducing the amount of time that it would take to go to the grocery store and not know what you're supposed to get. So it's going to simplify grocery shopping, it's going to simplify mealtime, and it's going to simplify decisions of meals that you should consume because each meal on here is going to be in line of your genetics. So I'm going to show you the gene test down below here. And at any moment in time, if you're interested in getting a gene test, you're more than welcome to book a call, have a conversation. We'll explain the whole process to you. There's going to be a PDF down below this video that shows you a little bit more about the process. And then down below that PDF is going to be an FAQ as well. Now, I want to tell you some personal favorites here, things we've kind of just noticed across the board, right? Like everyone says we don't get enough sunlight. Like nobody gets enough vitamin D in a day. So check out across these gene profiles. Elevated vitamin D. Elevated vitamin D. You're going to see other things change around it, but nearly everyone we've been testing needs more vitamin D in a day. So, from the outside looking in, could somebody make the recommendation you should supplement vitamin D? Well, based on this, I could open more, but this is where you would be able to start to determine like, okay, empirical evidence on our side suggests that a majority of people should probably supplement vitamin D because their genetics put them at need for more vitamin D in a day. So as we're building out our process through testing, we're also able to start making better recommendations without testing. So testing at its core is very important for each individual person. But as people make claims in society on you should eat this or you should eat this, well, now we can actually see across the board what genetics, at least in a percentage based, expressed across all the testing, is something that may be valuable for you. So along with vitamin D, you can also see across the board right here, you're looking at choline, and this is like eggs, soybean. So choline needs, a lot of people have elevated choline needs. And instead of boring you through these, I'm going to go down and show you a little bit more on the tests. But like gluten, you can see a lot of people have like medium, high tolerance, so low, high, low, medium, low. So with gluten, it's kind of not the same as vitamin D. So the very first thing you're getting on these tests is nutritional metabolism, which means, okay, are you at risk for elevated needs of calcium? Are you at risks of elevated need of iron? But some of the most important ones on here you're going to notice would be caffeine. So I know a lot of people drink coffee and they're wondering, you'd think in terms of our society that fasting may be beneficial for you, but if you're fasting and you're drinking your black coffee and you're having like 4 cups of black coffee and you need to be under 195 milligrams of coffee, do you have the gene variant for caffeine? And right here, this is your CYP1A2. So you can see that this person would be fine drinking caffeine. This person would be pretty fine drinking caffeine, not good with whole grains. You can see a majority of people across the board do not have that gene. But this one person right here needs to limit their caffeine intake to 200 milligrams in a day. So these tests allow us to give professional recommendations on what you should be doing at a scientific level. So where you could tell one person, yeah, like 4 cups of coffee is not bad. They actually even suggest that around your liver. But this person right here should not be doing that. So one of the main key takeaways is that, yeah, you might want to drink a lot of coffee, but genetically speaking, if you have risk factors to cardiometabolic health, which in the case of this, the CYP1A2, is where they were trying to determine whether or not caffeine was good for you, bad for you, And now it has come down to genetics, whether or not it's good for you or bad for you. So something that could be good for one person is in fact bad for another. And if you follow me on TikTok at all, you know the number one question I get is, what do you eat? Me telling you what I eat is not beneficial for you. It's just as useful as somebody saying, hey, like put some shoes on when you go outside. Well, what pair of shoes should I wear? I don't know. What color do you like? So when it comes down to your genetics, each person's genes are expressed differently. And you're going to see some genes in this that talk about fat taste perception, sugar taste perception. There's a reason why some people really enjoy the ketogenic diet, or they really like cheese, or they really enjoy avocados. Some people hate avocados. Some people love avocados. I personally love avocados, but there's a reason that I love them. And then the mono and polysaturated energy intake is a requirement for me. So eating one of those is just accurate for me. It might not be accurate for you because you may not need those mono and polysaturated fats. So now we move down into where sodium intake. So the whole understanding of these gene tests, just to give you just an overview, just to get this out of the way, just in case you're not, you don't want to sit here and be bored to death by me going over this. It's gonna go over nutritional summaries. It's gonna go over weight and body composition with your exercises. It's gonna give us a little bit of an outline that we can use over here to help choose between foods. We prefer to have the genetic test and the gut microbiome test. So for instance, when you get down to choline, it's gonna tell you that eggs are your number one source of choline in a day. But if your gut microbiome is not properly re-inoculated, introducing eggs into your gut microbiome based on the book, The Microbiome Diet, is not the best thing to do. So with each data point that you allow us to take on you is going to increase the accuracy of the diet plan that we give you. So our preference right now is gut microbiome, nutrigenomics, blood, and hair. So 4 data points allowing us to look at your sensitivities, your genetics, your stool, and your overall complex of nutrients that are currently in your body. So when somebody says, hey, here's what you should be doing and why you should be doing it, it's all based on science and not just guessing and saying, hey, an avocado is good. Like we all know eggs have a lot of nutrients in them, and choline being something that a lot of people are genetically requiring more of, that may be the right choice for you. But as you can see, there's some other foods down here like shiitake mushrooms. You would probably need a lot of those. Soybeans, some people talking about estrogen in soybeans, chicken breast, ground beef, Atlantic cod, kidney beans. So, there's a different need for everybody. And if your gut microbiome is not re-inoculated and we tell you, hey, yeah, eat a bunch of eggs, some people eat eggs and they feel uncomfortable from that. So this is going to cover a majority of the food outlines for us to just tell what's going on. The blood is going to help us understand sensitivities. The hair is going to help us understand sensitivities as well. So we can really get an accurate overall view of the sensitivities that you have as an individual. And if you scroll down on this page, you're going to see where we talk about the brain-derived neurotrophin factor. So like some people are really truly motivated to exercise and some people are not motivated to exercise. It's like the same thing with genetics. Like you might have sugar taste preferences. You might need to eat more in between meals than other people. So fasting might work for one person. Fasting might not work for another person. Same thing with exercising might be easy for somebody. Exercising might not be easy for somebody else. Right here, this person has endurance ultra. So they're most likely the person that should be participating in maybe a triathlon at some point in their life. Being the same as everybody else, thinking you need to go to the gym to exercise is not the best thing to do. Power and strength and endurance, that's a very important one, is it not? You tell me. Bone mass, same thing, moving around a lot more as we get older. And then down near the bottom, we go over additional genetics for health and wellness insights. This is going to be like our interleukin 6. And what we've been noticing a lot with like interleukin 6 being a pro-inflammatory cytokine in a lot of people, interleukin 6 is in depression as well. It's one of the biomarkers. And a lot of people that have been experiencing depression, they have elevated interleukin 6. I have elevated interleukin 6. You're going to see a little bit on hunger hormones over here. You're going to see a little bit on insulin, fasting glucose, your LDL, your HDL. There's a lot of different information, like even with sleep. So some people are at risk of sleeping shorter than other people. So there's some things you can do about that. And that's like the circadian rhythm. But you can also look at like host clock genes. There's so much cool stuff that is just, might make no sense at first, but once you start to understand it and you sit down with a professional and you start to get the understanding of what these genes truly mean, you live on a whole different level. Like I can tell you personally, whenever I started paying attention to the nutrients that I was required, like an elevated need for magnesium, you're going to realize the majority of people don't get enough magnesium in a day. Sometimes people just supplementing magnesium absolutely changes everything. Now imagine if you had elevated needs for it and you weren't supplementing it and you needed it. Those are the little tiny changes that make big changes in your overall health. So each one of these tests you're going to see that allow us to find out what you need as an individual. So if somebody says start supplementing magnesium, start supplementing zinc, start supplementing vitamin E, start supplementing all of these different supplements, why? Like, why would you be supplementing a nitrous oxide? You've got, I'm at risk for diminished levels of plasma nitrous oxide. So, what are the reasons why somebody's telling you to do what you do? And the world that we live in nowadays, there's too much data available to just randomly take consultation off of somebody that's not pulling your information. So, the worst possible diet plan you can get is from someone who is not looking at this information right here. So if you're interested in any of this, you're more than welcome to book a call. There's some PDFs down below. They're going to explain it. But in the rest of this video, I'm just going to show you some cool things about the gene test just because, well, if you're the type of person that likes to learn, I like to be very transparent with our process. So now right here, you see Achilles tendon injury. And I can tell you that people we have tested who are very physically active, interestingly enough, majority of them have actually ended up having rotator cuff surgery or issues with their rotator cuff at some point in their life. I have had rotator cuff surgery. I have the genetics for rotator cuff injury. And sorry, that's Achilles tendon injury right there. Hang on 1 second. I'm looking at the wrong part. Sorry about that. It's right here. And this is my gene test, by the way. So right here, you can see elevated risk for rotator cuff surgery. And I had rotator cuff surgery when I was about 20, I think I was 22-ish, right around there. I remember going to the gym and somebody said to me, hey, if you don't stop working out upper body every single day, you're going to hurt yourself. I said, nah, I'm not going to hurt myself. You don't know what you're talking about. And lo and behold, guess who had rotator cuff surgery? This guy. So it goes to show, like, if I would have had a gene test and somebody gave me advice and said, hey, you should be very careful what you're doing, you might hurt yourself, I may have listened, but I was also young and I felt like I was invincible. And as we get older, we obviously know that we're definitely not invincible. Like, there's aches and pains, and you're like, where did that come from? You just wake up one day and your whole life changed. And we want to make sure that it changes for the better by actually giving ourselves the proper nutrition that we need. So, over here, like, fasting for me, like, one of the big reasons I got into fasting is just through learning the science behind fasting and then also realizing my life needed some superior changes very quickly. So you can see over here, I'm going to scroll in on this one. You've got like insulin, right? So right over here on this side, we have elevated risks of higher levels of insulin. So like this right here, I'm at risk for high insulin concentrations. So in this case, I would be at high risk for gaining weight and or developing type 2 diabetes, depending on if I was consuming a lot of sugar, like increased risk of high fasting glucose. So, fasting in general for me as a person would be a little bit harder because if you're fasting and you have higher levels of insulin, if you have higher glucose in your blood, it's going to be harder for your body to actually properly run on the ketones. So across the board over here on this side, you can see that some people like a typical ability to maintain weight and weight loss in the long term. Some people have genetics that truly make it harder for them to lose weight. Like, I have the increased risk for shorter sleep duration. So in technicality, I might wake up more often than someone else if I don't properly optimize my day and actually exercise to feel tired that night. So increased short sleep duration. Short sleep, if you read the book Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, short sleeping is one of the most dangerous health effects of your life. Like, the best thing that happens if you're not sleeping at least more than 7 hours a night is that your hormones are 10 years older than you are. So when you realize a lot of men in their 20s, low testosterone, 30s, really low testosterone, if they're not sleeping properly, which a lot of our generation and a lot of the world is not sleeping enough every single night, your hormones are 10 years older than you, which is absolutely insane. If you tell me, like, I don't want my testosterone to be that of somebody that's 10 years older than me. That sounds like a nightmare. Then when we get over into hormones and methylation, you can see right here, I have elevated risks of cardiovascular event in some diseases. So if you can learn that you have certain risk factors, like I have a risk of having a heart attack, well, but I don't have a risk of increasing the chances of heart attack through drinking caffeine. You start to really be able to map out yourself as a human by understanding your own genetics. Like, if I have risk for cardiovascular disease, I should probably be spending and building my life off of doing things that reduce the risk of a cardiovascular event. being the fact that cardiovascular events seem to be the number one cause of death in the United States of America. And nobody expects to have a heart attack. That's why they call it a heart attack. You're just going on with your day and then now you might be dead. So it's really important to understand the genes that influence the outcome of your life. Now, right here above me, you can see an elevated risk for cellular oxidative damage. So in this case, okay, basically my body wants to have a world war inside of itself. How can I stop the oxidative damage? So things that can reduce it on my side that I've decided to put into my life after knowing my own genetics, aka right here, my hands on the wrong side of the computer, but such as stress. Like when they say stress kills, yes, stress kills, but stress might kill somebody faster than somebody else. And for this case right here, with elevated genetics, stress will kill me faster than the average human being who doesn't have elevated risk. So, exercising properly, eating properly, reducing toxins in your life. So, for instance, I used to be the typical person that was younger and grew up and drank alcohol. I think at some point in time, a majority of people might get, convinced into that lifestyle. Then you usually get older, you kind of outgrow it. You realize the people that you were doing it with, they only did it because they didn't have other things going on in their life. And then when the overall quality of life improves, alcohol doesn't become a staple of it anymore. So, for instance, for me, oxidative damage. Yeah, of course, I'm going to try to not stress. And that's where we have the meditation documents down below. Find Zen, never stress again. And then I would say a really important one here for both men and women is understanding your estrogen. So maybe this is why I'm a little bit more of a sensitive person. But honestly, hormone balancing, like a lot of people have come to us and we have a hormone test as well. It's Dutch testing. You can look into Dutch testing if you're interested in hormones. You can work with us as always, or you could go with another process. But Dutch testing is a very good hormone testing company. But you'll realize some people that are having issues have been eating in the opposite direction of their genetics. Their gut microbiome is out of whack, and then their hormones are also out of balance. So once you recognize, like, I'm doing everything that is believed to be healthy based on what is put out on there on the internet as healthy, but you're not actually doing the things that are for you, or you know that you have issues in this, that means that whatever you're doing may not work. Like TRT for older men is extremely valuable based on the fact that low T levels cause a whole host of problems inside of somebody else. So once you start getting into hormones, that starts becoming an entire another tricky avenue of health that a lot of people are still trying to master themselves. But recognizing your genetics for hormones, so like I would naturally have high estrogen in my body. So I know a lot of people out there, totally sidebar here, I know a lot of people out there in the world in the fitness industry, they're cycling, steroid use and all this other stuff. And as you raise your testosterone, you raise your estrogen. And then now they call this gynoclamastia. So as you would raise your testosterone levels and raise your estrogen levels, if you stop doing that stuff and you genetically have higher levels of estrogen, it's going to be much harder to lower that estrogen level in your body. And then you could screw up your hormones forever. So, don't take performance enhancing drugs would be the ideal here, regardless of your genetics. Now, I tell you that this one is really interesting to me. I can tell you I fast mostly every single day. There's certain days that I don't fast, and that's all dependent on my fitness schedule, as well as some other things in life. Like, am I going to have time to eat later? Maybe I should eat earlier today. But typical susceptibility for hunger. I can tell you, interestingly enough, when my diet was actually bad, which now I know, oh, my gut microbiome was out of balance and I was constantly consuming really terrible quality foods. So I would get really hungry, I would eat, and then I'd get really hungry again and I would eat again. So the typical eat, 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 eat because I'm hungry lifestyle. And then when I started getting into fasting, started to recognize, like, I can tell you nowadays, I fasted for long enough to know better that I don't actually get hungry. So, like, it's very interesting if you decide to fast that you don't actually feel hunger that much anymore. Like your body is so naturally used to going through something called intermetabolic switching, which is the cellular usage from carbs to fats. And after your body has become adapted to switching its fuel sources and your gut microbiome is truly re-inoculated, you really don't experience hunger. Or maybe it's just me. But a lot of other people I've talked to, they said, yeah, I fasted for so long, I could go weeks without eating. It's no longer this relationship with like, oh my gosh, I'm hungry, I'm getting angry. I need to eat food, because it was like that for me for a very long time. So over here, I figured, maybe I had elevated genetics for not feeling hunger. So typical susceptibility to hunger for me, well, I guess I'm not elevated in that area. So like at any moment in time, like if I need to fast for like let's say the world ran out of food and oh no, you can't eat for a month. Cool, sounds great. I'm gonna be the last person worried about that. And then as we arrive here, another compare and contrast as you look over here, you can see with the insulin levels, the fasting glucose, and you can see diminished genetics here as well. And this is where, once again, I'm at risk for dying from a heart attack. So, what am I going to do based on multiple data points on my genetics? Make sure that I optimize my life where I don't die from a heart attack, because that sounds absolutely horrible. So, after everything I've explained here, does it sound like a crazy idea that you should consider getting your own genetics tested to find out what diet plan is accurate for you? So, when we make the statement that we would like to write the diet plan for the rest of your life, well, genes don't change very much, but the way that they express can change. So, knowing that I have risk for cardiovascular event in my life, I have significantly changed the way that I live and eat, because honestly, like I said earlier, like I don't really want to die from a heart attack. That sounds like a terrible way to go. It sounds really painful based on what people say. Like they say that it feels like a truck is hitting you. I don't want to get hit by a truck. So these gene tests, more of the information is going to be available down below. You're also going to be able to book a call and have a conversation. You can talk to our dietitian directly if you'd like, to make sure that this is, in fact, the right decision for you. But we really do not advise anybody taking any dietary advice from anyone unless they have your genetics on file, they have your blood on file, they have a look into your gut microbiome. There are too many different places to gather information about a human being to write an accurate diet plan. There's too many data points for a person to be able to get on you as a person to write an accurate diet plan to not have any data points. And what we've learned is a lot of people that we work with that have worked with a dietitian before, they've never had any of these tests done. And I'm like, so what are they, how are they telling you what to eat? Majority of people are telling other people to eat based on the fact that we all think and believe an avocado is healthy. Do you have CD36 genetics that elevate your fat taste perception that make it very certain that an avocado might be good for you? And then remember that each person is truly different. So you can see right here, monounsaturated fats consume at least half your total fat as monounsaturated fat. So like consume at least half your total fat as monounsaturated fat. And then limit saturated fat intake to no more than 10% of your energy in a day. So now imagine if people are eating completely in the wrong direction, where everyone says, oh, do the carnivore diet. Well, your genetics say that you need to limit your energy intake of saturated fats to no more than 10% of your energy intake in a day. And a lot of carnivore based foods have a lot of saturated fat in it. And if you're consuming too much of that, well, it depends on who you are. So if you have enhanced genetics in one place, such as monosaturated fats, then you might want to at least listen to your genes and consume half of your total fat as monounsaturated versus not having to worry about that too much. And you can see right here, limit saturated fat intake to no more than 10% of energy. And then it says limited saturated fat to no more than 10% of energy. So each person is truly different. And I really appreciate you for watching this video. You've probably learned more about genetics than most people on the internet, because most people don't think in terms of this. Like, we live in a society where a lot of people want answers, and sometimes the best answer is through testing for yourself as an individual. You deserve to eat off of your genetics and have a better life because of it. And then, hey, you might be inspired to know that you have ultra genetics for endurance, and you might decide to become an endurance athlete because you will, in fact, excel at it. And that's some crazy stuff that, like, I didn't know. Like, motivation to exercise. Yeah, some people are literally more motivated to exercise than others. So, like, going to the gym that makes one person happy, they're like, I need to go to the gym for my mental health. Yeah, of course you do, because you have genetics for that. The other person that goes to the gym, it is like the opposite. They're like, this is the most horrible experience of my life. I have to force myself to go to the gym. I'm not one of those people that have to force myself to do that, but you might be. And your genetics will tell you and help you understand what you should be doing next. And then endurance athlete, I have ultra for endurance athlete. So that's where I thought to myself, you know what? If I have endurance for ultra athletes and, I might have risk for cardiovascular diseases in my life. Should I start to maybe train for a triathlon? Probably. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Down below, there's FAQs, there's more videos, and you're more than welcome to book a call and have a conversation. So I look forward to talking to you one day soon. Hope you have a beautiful day. And the gut microbiome video as well, if you haven't watched that, that's going to show you a little bit more. I'm going to give you the share of the diet plans that we have. I'm going to show you how we write up our recommendations as well, just so you can see more transparency on the testing that we offer. And the reason I did this is because there's a lot of companies out there that really undercharge for their testing. I'm not going to use the names, but they actually resell your data. That's why they can sell the test for so cheap, because, well, they're not really doing anything impressive. And we've looked at a majority of the testing companies out there, and we have found that this one is one among the best. So last thing I'd say here is we don't sell your data. We're not gonna clone you. The only way that anybody would be able to have access to a person's genetic information is, well, hopefully you're not about to go murder anybody anytime soon, because, well, if your DNA is somewhere or your blood's somewhere, that's the government. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to check out the free resources. Hope you have a beautiful day.